Welcome back, I'm Tedward, and today, thanks to Bond Group in Waltham, Massachusetts, we're driving the 2020 BMW M2 Competition. And this car is especially appropriate for today's video because over the weekend it was reported that the average cost of a new car in America has just exceeded $50,000. That's an average cost of a new car. So that's just normal people cars. You want to get into something with an M badge on it today, you're paying big money. But this on the used market kind of sits in that average cost, and you get a killer rear wheel drive smoke show experience because this has some real power and torque. It's powered by an S55 inline 6 with 2 turbos, unlike its predecessor, the non-competition package, where the M2 first came out with the N55 with one of those single twin scrolls. Now, we do love the N55 M2s, but the S55 took it to the next level, and I really think this is the sweet spot for these cars. Of course, you can go and get a CS and get something with a bit sharper handling and lighter weight, but for daily driving and normal use, this S55 Competition is probably the proper spiritual successor to the E92 M3. And every mile I've put on it, which is not very many, has brought me back to a better time when I was enjoying my E92 M3. Now, gone were the days of a high revving V8, but this still revs out to, I think, 7,600 RPM. And an inline 6 is very appropriate for BMW M performance. Inside, a very lovely cabin, except this is the reason I didn't get one, because it wasn't as nice. I just don't think it was as nice as the E92 inside. There's great things, and I think for the driver, you get a great Alcantara steering wheel, very familiar DCT controls, but for example, this dashboard, it's like they're trying to trick me with this kind of like plasticky dashboard, and then they put this deviated stitching in here. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a fool. I know this isn't leather or Alcantara, so just like let it be, I guess. And in the rear, which I probably would never put anyone back there, I always just thought the back of these M2s was such a penalty box. This is such a bland rear seat, and it only seats 2. That's fine. My Civic Type R only seats 2, but I think the Civic Type R seats are nicer than these BMW seats. So it gets a little bit frustrating, but you get all the M touches. I love seeing the stripes everywhere, especially on these seat belts, but the car isn't too in your face in terms of the M-ness of it all. It is Hockenheim Silver Metallic. I think this is the color to get on this car, and it seems rare today to get a car this size. So that's the thing. It's not that big. It has 405 horsepower, 406 pound-feet of torque. Sorry I buried the lead on that one, but that's juicy, especially because it's all going to the rear wheels. We're not playing an all-wheel drive game here. And look at these brakes. Oh my goodness, they just fit within the barrel of these 19-inch wheels, which are wrapped in a 245 section tire up front and a 265 section in the rear. Style-wise, this is another thing. I always thought the E92 looked better than this car, but these have grown on me quite a bit. I love the flares. I love the contours. I think everything just hits pretty darn good, and if the newest G87 isn't your taste, I feel like this would do it. I love the competition badge here, and then plenty of space. I mean, this is like a pretty normal sized trunk. You're gonna be able to do the weekend thing or just daily drive it. Battery in the trunk. I like that they put the batteries in the center. I remember on my E92, it was tucked away in the corner. It was a very difficult angle to get like what felt like a 900-pound battery out of the car. So if you've ever changed one of those, you know what I'm talking about. Certainly no subtlety with the exhaust down here. I don't actually know. This must be modified. That looks a little extreme, but it does look good, and it's got the M badges on there. So if that's stock, my memory has faded, and I'm impressed with the pipes that they've put back there. Let's get under the hood so I can show you this. Now, one of the reasons this is so cool that they put an S55 in this car is because this is what powers the M3 and M4. And I think, I swear, my memory might be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure they put the S55 first in the X3 competition before the M3. I could be wrong there, but fact check me on that. I don't know why that sits in my head like it's a fact. It could be wrong. Anyway, I love this carbon strut bar. This is unlike anything you see in most cars. Usually they just go across. This is really cool in order to maintain chassis rigidity. And then they do all they can to keep the intake air charge temperatures low. So they've got all kinds of fun trickery in here and under this hood. I always thought this box looked a little cheesy, but you know, who cares? It does its job. And I do genuinely like the fact that this is a twin turbo and it's not that single twin scroll. It's 2 mono scroll turbos. So enough chit chat. Let's get in and drive it, because this is a driver's car after all. To start our M2, I have the key in my pocket. I'm actually going to pop that out because I'll probably just drive home with it by accident. So I'll put that in the cup holder so Patrick doesn't have to hunt me down later. Foot on the brake, we've got our engine start stop button back here. It's red. A lot of people replaced their E92 start stop buttons with red buttons just because they thought they look cooler, but I think they just did that stock in these cars. It's a pretty rev-happy little engine. Engine compartment hot. Okay. I don't know why that matters. That's fine. Maybe it was because I opened the hood for the walk around on the Bring a Trailer video, and it's like, hey man, you could really hurt yourself on this. But I just think this thing's kind of a hot little ticket. We can put our phone in here, which is actually kind of trick. I don't know. Yeah, all right, that works. And it, oh my goodness, is that really wireless charging? Is it? Wow. All right, 2020. Good job, BMW. I guess it's not that long ago. We have the luxuries of heated seats, and I think the heated seat things are kind of cool because they go down like an OCD person created this, because they go down from the inside out. I like that. And then over here, we have a heated steering wheel. Activated, deactivated, although the little light down there doesn't turn on or off. Maybe it's not supposed to be a light, not fully sure, but either way, that's kind of luxurious, more than I would expect. We've got iDrive, so you know, that's something that's familiar to me, and all the controls are very BMW. This stuff feels normal to me. I do feel at home in this car as a former E92 owner. Also, we've got M buttons, so you can set up your M in different settings, so that way you can have different things you want. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, otherwise, it's fine. I wish I like less buttons for things like that, but DCT, very simple. You go left for neutral, left and forward for reverse. We get a great little camera, although there's some like lagginess with these lines when you're backing up, and then back to neutral, and then over for drive and sport, and then you can push forward for a downshift, pull back for an upshift, and you've got your paddles there. So, you know, everything's pretty darn cool. Let's see how it gets off the line. We've got traction mostly off, but we're just gonna roll into it and see if we can get it to hook up. Yeah, man, this thing's a little beast. That was not that much throttle either. I think I gotta go back into like more of a comfort mode, just because I think that was a little overkill. I was probably pressing a lot less than you'd imagine and still managing to get that thing to light up like I was just trying to smoke them. I think that's what I like about these cars, though, is they introduce torque into the equation, which was something that the E92 had basically none of. If it was wet, I could get the E92 to behave like that, but certainly not just on like a normal day. Something I need to mention is that I definitely 100% of the time prefer this car with a 7-speed DCT over the manual. And I'm sorry, I know you're like, oh, dislike. No, there's a reason though. It's because when BMW started putting manual transmissions in cars like this and maintaining it at AM3, it really did feel like they were just pandering to an audience that demanded it, rather than developing a really nice feeling, ergonomic and sporty feeling transmission for people who wanted a manual transmission. And it never felt like it was built for this engine or the chassis. It just always felt like an afterthought, as if it was a third-party swap. They were a little mushy, they were long throws, and again, I wouldn't fault anyone for getting one. I think it makes sense if that's really like the experience you want to have, but it felt too cheap for the car. And the 7-speed DCT, same with the E92 M3, I always felt like matched the car so much better than a stick shift. And that's coming from me. I really like driving a stick. That's one of the reasons I bought my Civic Type R. But if I'm gonna drive a stick, it's gotta be a good one. It's gotta feel right. And I just never felt like it felt right in these cars. Something that bothered me in these cars when they first came out was the steering. It felt a little vague. It just didn't have the same tactile presence that the E92s had. So I was definitely living in my bubble of, well, they made it worse. They didn't make it better. And I still stand by that. I just don't think it matters as much anymore. Like, I would 100% buy this, daily this, track this car, take it on road trips, stack up a bajillion miles on it, get rid of it, do it again. Feels pretty stable, happy, wants to go fast, like faster than I think the car even looks. And, you know, interior ergonomics are fine, but I wish this moved in the E92s. This armrest moved, and so now my arm doesn't really like rest on anything. I've got to put it back. That's fine, I can adjust to that. Not the worst thing in the world. But you can see where they wanted to make sure that the M2, M3, and M4 were above the M2 in terms of creature comforts and materials and things like that. And sometimes that shows. And that wasn't a cheap car. This wasn't a cheap car. But because it had to be the baby M product, it did lose out on some of those features. It's oddly thrilling to get in a car with real gauges, with needles. We have torque to make this happen, which is really nice. Turbos do not take long to spool up. Blinker, dude. That'd be nice. We gotta compliment the blinker stock for going back to being normal, where it just goes down and then you put it back to the center, and it goes up and you put it back to the center instead of the bonkers toggle switch that was the previous generation of these, which was very frustrating for people. And honestly, I just watched a lot of people attempt to use their blinkers, fail, and then just stop using them altogether. I genuinely think that is why BMWs have the reputation of not using blinkers on the road. It's not because the drivers don't want to, it's because the control was so finicky for the general public that they just gave up on it, and they were like, you know what, it's better not to use it than to use it incorrectly. That 2.3 should give you an idea of how much torque this car actually has. Like, it's incredible that somehow in the M2 it's charming, and the M3 that's scary. But if you're driving this car in the wet, like, keep some systems on, just because it'll loop you quick just on an upshift. But that's what's cool about this car, is that it's actually overpowered. Genuinely, it has more than it needs. And when you nail those gears, you stay in it, you're actually gonna like wiggle that tail. It's got a hot rod vibe to it, and that's fun. It's real muscular. Feels like a time when they trusted us with rear wheel drive. They wouldn't really give you stuff like this in most cars today. They'd make sure it was all-wheel drive and that it had a million nannies on it, and this is so cool. The ride quality's firm but compliant. And this is another one of those cars where, at the time, I probably thought this was too stiff. Hit those little bumps, you feel it through the chassis. Cars have gotten so stiff today that this is no longer in that category. Now it's sporty, but street sporty, not track sporty, but definitely capable for the track. I think it's really cool what you can do in the mid-range with this car. With my old M3, I really just had to keep the revs up above 5,500 RPM to have any good time or get around traffic, and there was a lot of downshifting involved. In this car, you can seriously party from like 2,500 RPM. Look at that. Sometimes people walk their dogs here, so I always only use line of sight when I'm driving on roads like this if I'm going to be going, and I'll just brake early. So sure, it doesn't have the 8,600 RPM redline of those S65 V8s, but you almost don't notice it because the way you bury this up to close to 8,000 RPM, it's a very broad power band. That is the correct color to wear on a road like this. Ooh, yeah, that's how you know you got good brakes. They're a little squeaky. I genuinely can't believe how hard this pulls once it gets into third. Like, this is a proper little rocket. But here's the thing, like, we're just, we're out in the afternoon, school hasn't let out yet, people are, I don't know what people do anymore. I feel like rush hour starts at like 1:30 now, so I don't fully understand what American schedules are like. Do people just not work, or do they just leave work to go pick up their kids and go back to, I don't understand. Where are all these people coming from? Why don't you work? That was the benefit of my job for a short time. I got to like be out when no one was out, but now everyone's just out all the time. I don't understand this. But on a normal commute, this is like such an easy car to daily, such an easy car to drive because it's comfortable. It doesn't take, what a line this guy's taking. Come back out, double apex it, come back in. Yeah, you kind of got that line. And the torque just makes this car so easy because you never have to wonder, like, am I in the correct gear? You just like lean onto the throttle and it's gonna go. You're gonna get that pass. And this can hang with some serious contenders because 400 horsepower, 400 pound-feet of torque is no slouch. Jeez, look at that. still has the attitude of like an Autobahn burner where, you know, you get to fourth and it's still pulling really hard. I mean, this is like a proper triple digit car. It'll do the speeds lickety split, no problems. It's pretty maniacal. I love it because you're just gonna feed it throttle till it starts to bite, and then you back off. So let's conclude. I think the M2 Competition is slightly, dude, oh my goodness, just do it. You're already doing it, man. Like, unbelievable. These people, yeah, take your time, buddy. Take your time. I'm trying to wrap this video and you're just trying to crash into the middle of the street. Anyway, M2 Competition. It's a little more of a hooligan than I think it lets on. I do think that this car, in a lot of ways, is the spiritual successor to the E90 and E92 M3. However, it's got torque, and it suffers from the same kind of rear-end psychosis that the F80 M3 suffers from, which is, especially with the DCT, you go for that 1.2 or 2.3 and it slips out from under you just a bit. With all the systems on, not an issue. You can counter steer and catch it. It's catchable, but it can catch you off guard, especially if you thought you were putting the power down and then suddenly it's basically like a clutch dump drift initiation into that sideways nature. And I think the character of this car is exciting because it mixes the balance of a BMW M chassis with kind of the egregious torque and punch that we used to only know about from like AMG V8s. And I think that's really enjoyable. I think this car is a little more outrageous than people think. But because of this torque, it allows you to be fast on a racetrack, but it also could be a little drift monster if you so chose to chew up lots of tires, which could be a lot of fun. I think that's really cool. DCT, I think this is a wonderful 7-speed. It makes sense. It's not slipping the clutch when I get off the brake like those Volkswagen tunes do. So these clutches should last a good bit of time. Maintenance-wise, look, I don't know, but the S55, it's a pretty robust engine. It's reinforced crank and pistons, and it's a closed deck system. I mean, this should be able to take a heck of a lot of power, which means that whatever it's operating on as a stock situation, it's basically just churning away at a minimal percentage of what it's capable of. Should do the job and last. But then again, BMW, and you may hear the dreaded chime, whether it's telling you that the entire car has fallen apart, or maybe it's just 37 degrees and you should look out for icy conditions. So I think that's gonna do it. I hope you enjoyed this. I really enjoyed revisiting this car, and this car, this size, this power, this performance, my goodness. I mean, look at the brakes on this thing. It's just so ready to party. And I feel like it's more of a party guy than even the M3, M4, because it feels a little more raw and it feels a little more honest. So that's gonna do it for me in this Larry hooligan of an M2 competition. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive. We'll see you in the next one.